Nature Boy Ric Flair that you ended up beating in that four-way match. What do you remember about that night?
Can I digress just a moment? Because
Absolutely.
you're mentioning Spring Stampede, because that's my first main event ever in 1997 against the one and only, the Macho Man. And, to have that actually fall 2 years before, and Mach, as you know, Tony, I didn't say, I'd really love to work with Macho. That was not the way it went down. It went down where, Mach said he wanted to work with me because what was happening with the NWO and everything. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me ever. It changed my life. And for Mach to take the diamond cutter in the middle, again, it changed my life. And then you go 2 years later, same pay-per-view, and I'm in there with arguably maybe four of the greatest ever. If not, they're in a rotating top 10 between Nature Boy Ric Flair, the Stinger, and the Hulkster, and DDP's there. And Nate does the honors of taking the cutter in the middle. It was the most surreal moment of my life. And afterwards, behind the scenes, because Hulk had said he wanted me to put him out with what would become known as the Bret Hart figure 4 on the turnbuckle are we on camera here too? Or you guys? I see you guys are on camera.
I don't see you at all.
No, just
I see
audio.
you guys.
Okay.
All right, but no, I think that's kind of cool. So because now I really feel like I'm talking to you. But I came back to the backstage area, and when I walked through into the locker room, there's Hulk, and I just put him out in the figure 4 on the pole, and he's sitting there, and he's a pool of sweat, and he's got his knee braces on the ground, and he looks up at me when I walk through the door. It's just me and him, and he says to me, "This is the way our business is supposed to be. That someone like you, who could come in our business that no one, thought would ever be anything, that you would work your ass off, and that one day that you would be the world champion." He said, "This is the way it's supposed to be." And man, it choked me up big time. I gave him a big hug and he hugged me back, and it was a moment, man. And for Nate and Nate and I had our ups and downs in our career as far as how we I guess how we both handled different things. I think I've said some things, he said some things over the years, but over the last 8 years, I guess it's been 10 years now, me and him, I got to tell you, I'm doing an autograph signing in Jersey, and after he retired with the big balloons and all that, all the fanfare that he deserved, finally retiring from the WWE, we're both at an autograph signing the next day, and I thought, I don't want to feel this way about Nature Boy. I love Nature Boy. I don't want to feel this way, and I don't want him to feel the way about me. I don't want to have the conflict anymore. So I decided what I was going to do. I didn't know where it was going to go, but when we both ended up in the green room, when he'd come through and everybody was, hey, Nature Boy, all through the fanfare, and then I was the last one standing there, and he goes, "Hey, Diamond." I'm like, "Hey, Nate." I go, "Can I talk to you for a second?" He said, "Sure." He said, I said, Nate, I said, "I know over the years we've had a little bit of heat together." And he's like, Diamond, don't worry about that. I said, "Nate, I ain't worried about it. I want to fix it." I go, I don't know what happened. I don't know. I said some stuff. You said some stuff. I said, I don't want to feel this way, and I don't want you to feel this way about me, man. I said, I love the Nature Boy. I don't want to. I tell you what I'd like, bro. I'd like to start all over again. And I put my hand out. I said, "I'm Diamond Dallas Page." And he popped. He gave me a big smile and a hug and God bless your brother, kiss on the forehead. And that was 10 years ago. And I never really got to thank him for that night. And I almost did when Dusty passed, because somehow Nature Boy and I ended up with our families in a hotel that was completely away from, the area where Dusty was. They had the memorial for him, and I just didn't want to be around anybody because Dusty was my guy. Without Dusty Rhodes, there is no Diamond Dallas Page. I still get choked up thinking about tonight, but I was having lunch and Nate saw me and he came up. He was like, Diamond. He met my wife and Wendy came over and we had a great lunch, and then he went with his family, and then later that night we got together again and we had a really good time, and I almost thanked him right there. I almost did, but I thought I got to do it bigger than this, and I knew at some point, I didn't know when, but I knew at some point I was going to go in the Hall of Fame. I just knew it. I knew I earned it. I knew I belonged there. And I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I knew at some point it would. And I thought, that night, I'm not going to thank him for this night because it won't mean as much. I'm going to thank him in front of everybody. And when I went through all my list, all the people I thanked at the Hall of Fame, when I got to him, I mentioned this match. And I wanted him to know how much it meant to me because I knew it put me one step closer to that spot, to that Hall of Fame spot, without Nate doing that, and he could have said no. Plenty of guys have said, no, I'm not doing that. But he did, and I want to know how much it meant to me. And then little after effect after the Hall of Fame, the Monday night, we're leaving on Tuesday morning, and I was passing the bar, and he waved me down. I came over, had a drink with him, and he said, so what time's your flight tomorrow morning? I said, 7:30. Oh, who booked that? I go, I didn't. And he said, you're not taking that flight. He goes, we're leaving at 2:30. I got a Learjet. I got the limousine. Don't call me before 12. He said, you're flying home with me back to Atlanta. And that's how I left. So that would have been, how crazy is that? Fucking leaving with Flair. I got diamond cutter signs of me and him outside the Learjet. And then when he found out it was my birthday the next day, he wouldn't let me go home. He took me and my wife out to his favorite restaurant. Wendy came by. It was unbelievable, man. So all of that is part of the Spring Stampede story, because without that, I don't live this crazy life I've lived.
When did you find out that you were going to be becoming champion that night? Back in those days, things started to move a little faster. Maybe a generation before, it would have been planned out and it would have been a vote and people would have known months in advance, but this is the Nitro era. So things were moving quickly. When did you know tonight's the night?
I want to say, I think I heard it a day or so before, and it really was Hulk and Nash that made that happen. Bish was the guy who okayed or, killed or whatever stuff, but, he didn't really buck them too much. And at that time, Hulk and Nash were both booking. And, you like what I said story about Hulk, he really felt like I'd earned it. And I didn't believe it. Conrad, do you know my story about Dusty and the world title thing? Do you know that story?
Absolutely. But I don't think everybody listening knows it. So go ahead and share it, because we're approaching a pretty big moment, or what would have been a pretty big moment in Dusty's life next weekend.
Yeah. Would have been crazy. I know he's just drumming up wherever the hell he's at, up there in some cloud somewhere, drinking some beers with Murdoch. Like, do you believe this shit? Look at this, as he would say, from his loins, if you will. But it was 1994, November of 94. I'll never forget. And Dusty, because of Florida Championship Wrestling, and a lot of people don't know that, that's where I got my introduction to Dusty Rhodes, was in Florida Championship Wrestling with Michael Graham had brought me in there, but he first put me on the phone with him. And I've got strep throat, and Michael Graham wants me to blow Dusty away. And I'm like, Mike, I got nothing planned. Please don't. And they go, hello? Good God, Dusty Rhodes, the Tower of Power, the man of the hour. Dude, and I stole everything Dusty ever said. And, Captain Lou and Jesse Ventura, and some of my own shtick. And when I got to the end of the deal, I said, that's all I got, Dusty. I'm sorry, I've got strep throat. Hello? And it felt like it was 5 minutes, him waiting. It was probably 20 seconds. And then he said, was that a recording, kid? And that was the first time I met Dusty Rhodes. And so that was in 1989. And so now it's 1994, and he's my mentor. He's like a real mentor. I got something, Dusty will listen. And he will hear me out, and then he'll tell me, and I'll take what I want from it. And most times, like to him and Jake both, I listened and I did what I thought I should do. But I always listened. So this night, Dusty's just letting me rant. Because I know the booking committee does not believe in Diamond Dallas Page. It's 1994. It's like, I'm so frustrated. I want to quit. But not quit wrestling. I want to quit and go to New York. I want to go to WWF. And I'm just ranting at this point. And at some point I go, Dream, I know I'm never going to be you or Rick or Hulk. I know I'm never going to be the world champion, man. But, they just won't. And he Dusty had never yelled at me at any point. But at some point he just rakes my eyes and he goes, Dallas, enough. And man, I was like, okay. He said, what did you just say? I said, well, now I feel kind of stupid, I'm like, well, Dusty, I know I'm never going to be you, or Flair, or Hulk. And then I started a little bit rant. I go, I know maybe if I started when I was 20, Dallas, no, what did you say after that? I said, well, Dream, I know I'm never going to be a world champion. And he said to me, and I didn't say this in my Hall of Fame speech, but this is exactly what he said. He said, then what the fuck are you doing it for? He said, D, if you don't believe as hard as you work, if you don't believe that you could be the world champion, you need to get the fuck out of our business right now. And man, it was like he reached through the phone and slapped me in the face. And I don't remember what he said after that, but man, I remember exactly what I did. Back then they had pads next to your phone in 1994. You write down a message, somebody called. I didn't write down a message, but I wrote down on that pad, I will be the world champion in 5 years or less. And it was 4 years, 4 months, and 14 days. And that's when April 11th, 1999, at Spring Stampede in Tacoma, Washington, came about.
Paige, that is a fucking great story. Jesus. That is a tremendous story, and your career from that moment on has gone evolved through many things, and now here you're going to join us at Starrcast. You're going to be having your talk about the workshop you're going to be having for us.
And one of the things, Tony, that I'm all about branding, and I know you know that. I can remember talking to Tony Conrad, and I don't remember what building we were at, but again, I was super frustrated. And I was like, Tony, why? Why isn't it happening? Can't they see what I'm doing? Can't they see, And he just shook his head and he was like, D, you just got to keep doing what you're doing. Now I got to go digress. My first match in WCW, my very first match, and with Scott Hall, and we're having an enhancement match. And I was an announcer. So I would dress with the announcers. That's where I've been dressing the whole time.
Right.
So I'm not going to dress with the boys. I'm dressing with the announcers. So I'm getting my, changing out of my gear. And Tony walks in. And he says, Dallas, that is one of the best first matches I have ever seen. And then he says to me, now, if you're this good 6 months from now, you suck. He said, so keep doing what you're doing. And then later on, I would ask him that, like, Tony, why? He's like, D, you don't know. You just got to keep doing what you're doing. So, when it came down to branding the diamond cutter and everything, I know how important it is to get people to understand what you're doing. It comes from my nightclub experience and promoting my nightclub. So when I first started this whole yoga for regular guys, that's really what it started. It actually was yoga for normal people. Then it became yoga for regular guys. Then it became YRG. Then it became DDP yoga. But I know that if I'm ever going to eliminate the yoga word,
yeah.
And the only reason I love yoga today, I think yoga is amazing. It's not what I do. Do I have yoga positions? Absolutely. But do I have rehabilitation techniques? Yes. Do I have old school calisthenics? Yes. Do I do dynamic resistance? Do we Hulk it up? Do we do the diamond cutter? Do we do superstar? Do we shit that nobody does? Yes. So right now I'm in the process, and you'll remember I said this 3 years from now, because no one will call it yoga ever. They might call it DDP yoga, but the brand they're going to know is DDPY. Why DDPY? Kind of like P90X, but no one knows what the fuck P90X means. They don't, but they know what it is. People will know what DDPY is, but DDPY, why? Because I want people to stop fucking calling it yoga, because it's not. Now, here's the coolest thing, and you guys don't know this yet. Conrad, you might, but Tony, my biggest crowd that I've ever had when I do a workshop. Now, granted, most classes, yoga classes, might be 10, 15, maybe 20, 30 people. When I do a workshop, it's never less than 70, 80, 90, 100 people. The biggest I've ever had is 151 people. Right now, we're at 161 paid, 14 comps. We're at 175 people for start. We have broken the record, and we're a week out. And Cody just did a promo for me, which I said to you guys, I know you'll put out there.
Absolutely.
Cody's actually in the original book, Yoga for Regular Guys. This kid, I am so proud of this kid. Let me tell you a story about that. Most people don't know this story. Dusty has turnbuckle, and I am about to go to the WWE.
I should mention here, Dallas, that Turnbuckle is a promotion, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. Yeah.
If it would have been today with Dusty Rhodes on the independent scene, I just can't even imagine. But from his loins, if you will, comes this kid who's 14 at the time. And he had just gotten out of the ring, because he'd be out of the ring, he'd be reffing, he'd be learning back then, everything. And he loves football. And Dusty coaches him as a football player when he's, 11, 12, 13. I would go there and speak to the kids. So now it's 2001. Cody is a sophomore. And so, I'm putting on my boots. He just come out from doing some stuff in the ring. And I said, and I always called him, and this is kind of funny when you think about who his partners are here. But since Cody was 12 years old, I would call him Young Buck. Like, shoot, Young Buck. And who are the boys he's doing this big deal with? Kind of surreal to me a little bit. So I would say, so Young Buck, when's football start? And he said, I'm not playing this year. I said, you're not playing football? He said, nope. He said, I'm going to focus on my wrestling. Now, he's going to be a sophomore. He says to me, I'm going to win the state champs the following year as a junior. I went, really? He said, yes. I said, awesome, bro. I go, that is an awesome goal. So in the meantime, he goes through his year. I think he goes 14 and 12 or something. I don't know. It was something like that. So his junior year, he starts out, he's 11 and 0. I'm living in LA at the time now. So I call him up. I already know he's 11 and 0, but I'm just calling. I just call him in and check in on him. I said, so Young Buck, what's up? He goes, oh, Dallas, it's going great. I'm 11 and 0. I'm like, yeah, undefeated. Wow, that's awesome. We talked for a while. Then I call him back. Now he's like 23 and 0. And same conversation. Then I call him back and he's like 34 and 0. And now he's excited. Like, he's excited at a different level. They just interviewed him and his dad for the Atlanta Constitutional Journal, which is a pretty big fucking deal for a junior in high school. And his old man, who he worships, is in the article with him. And he's getting all this attention. And at some point he says to me in his excitement, Dallas, you just don't know. And at that point, I have to rake his eyes. And I go, whoa, Code, back up. I go, I might have an idea. I go, I kind of was a 3-time world champion. No, I don't mean it like that. I just like, dude, I'm busting your balls. I go, here's the deal. You got to keep your feet on the ground. I said, you're 34 and 0? I said, that means there's a huge target on your back. I go, more than ever, you got to be focused, bro. Keep reaching for the stars, but keep your feet on the ground. That is pivotal. So I said, if you make it to, the quarterfinals, I'll be there. He goes, you'll come out from LA. I said, I'll be there. So I didn't have to wait for that. I knew he was going to be in the finals. I just knew it. I booked my ticket. And I was there and watched that kid go 48 and 0. So the next year, I want to say, I don't know exactly what it was, but I want to say he was like 12 and 0 when I called him. And I already knew what had happened. And when I got on the phone with him, he's like, Dallas, I lost. I fucking lost. And I said, thank God. He said, what? I said, thank God. He goes, why would you say that? I said, Code. I said, really? Do you think you learned anything from winning? I mean, really? You learn from losing, bro. You learn from falling down. You learn through getting dragged through the mud. That's how you learn. I said, so let me ask you a question. Would you rather have met this cat? I don't know his name. I just know he was a twin. And they're both of them were amazing. I said, would you rather have met, hey baby, I'm doing a promo on the phone here, so please.
Are you working folks out in the background with DDPY? What's going on there?
Yeah, I got my daughter and my wife back there just jabbering away. So, so I said, would you rather have met this guy in the quarterfinals and had him beat you at 45 and now, dead silence on that phone. I said, what did you learn, young buck? Well, the thing became like nobody wanted to get pinned by Cody Runnels. So these kids would do whatever it took. So this is how this kid adapts as a senior in high school. He takes them down. He lets them up again. He takes them down. He lets them up again. He takes them down. He looked like a Greek model god coming into the finals. And I actually brought my daughter Brittany with me to that match. And he's facing the kid who beat him. It's like you can't write this shit. Like Hollywood could write it, but this isn't really happening in front of me. And they have a thing there in Georgia. You're in the finals. You have your family down at ringside with you.
Right.
And Cody yells up when he hits the mat to start the match, Dad, get Dallas down here. So you can imagine how blown away and pumped I was when he said he was going to do this shit and do, sell out, with the Bucks, who have been pivotal throughout this whole thing. These kids, I've never met them, but I'm so looking forward because I've watched their stuff and like, wow, you talk about guys who are their own animals. They remind me of the Rock and Roll Express.
Right.
In a very 2018 way. But that kind of like, holy shit. Because you guys know the Rock and Roll Express, they were the shit. They were the Beatles. They had that kind of magnetism and draw and talent. Just when I heard that those boys went all in and then sold it out in 29 minutes, 36 seconds. Like I was rolling. And of all people, have Meltzer call him out. And Dave beautifully set it up. Like you can't do it. Like, let's give you an immovable object. And, who would think that it could happen?
Right.
I'll tell you what, the booking, Chicago, there's like 9 different federations in Chicago. There might be more. I mean, it's the most wrestling oriented. It was one of my top 3 favorite places to wrestle, Chicago. We have our whole DDPY program, which is all around the world. The biggest demographic, Chicago, which is pretty cool. And what Cody had told me, because they didn't have any time to get the locals to buy in, like 72% of this show is fly-ins. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be
an unbelievable show.
Yeah, it is going to be a big show, top to bottom, and I'm going to be there on Thursday and Friday, and Conrad has put this Starrcast together with all these different podcasts and everything going on. And I do want to tell you, too, Dallas, that, I've lost 35 pounds on DDPY. Yay.
Pretty fucking sweet, dude.
And Lois Schiavone has lost 20 pounds on DDPY. How about that?
That's awesome.
So Lois and I went to the Performance Center, and we were just going to go there just to check it out. But Paige made us work out. Lois looked at me like, are we really doing this? I went, I guess we are.
Did I take care of you?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You're the man. So, we're thrilled to have you part of this all-in weekend, this Starrcast weekend. It's great, and I appreciate your friendship and some great stories about, what happened at Spring Stampede in your career, and not only that, What a great story you are in pro wrestling, buddy. You really are.
It's pretty cool. So anybody out there who wants to come, you go to DDP Yoga Workshops, or you can go to Starrcast.com. It'll take you right to DDP Yoga Workshops. That's on Saturday. You got to be an early bird for this. My wife will be there checking a massive amount of people in at 8 o'clock. The show starts at 8:30. It is inspiration meets perspiration. I will guarantee you I'll have you so jacked up and believing in yourself that you literally feel like you run through a brick wall, but you won't have to. I make it so anyone at any level can do it. I'm going to inspire you at a different level to believe in yourself. One of my good buddies, you guys country fans at all?
Yeah.
You know Justin Moore is?
Yes.
A good buddy. I mean, literally just called me right when Tony said, "You want to do the thing tonight?" He was on the phone. He had called me. He said he had turned his stage manager, who's on the road with him right now, onto my Hall of Fame speech, and that they had just got done watching it again. And that was pretty cool for me. My whole goal going into that was to inspire people to believe that anything's possible. And that's what I do at these DDP Yoga workshops. The whole beginning is inspiration, then get into breathing. Then I break down dynamic resistance and the diamond dozen. So anyone at any level can do it. And some people are done right there. And then people who want to take it to the next level, then I take it to the next level and still make it so anyone can do it. And people who stop will get up and start doing it again, then sit down and then get up and start doing it and sit down. And then I'm going to take a big, massive group picture with everybody. And then every single person I'll do a picture with. And, it ain't going to be just 3 hours after we get done with all that, because every single person I talk to. So it's going to be a great time. And then next morning, Conrad, we got breakfast with a bang.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. So even if you're not in town in time to do some DDPY, you can still check out All In on Saturday night, and then start your day right on Sunday. Do breakfast with a bang, and Dallas is going to share more of his inspirational story, and maybe have a few guests there with him. And it's going to be a fun event, something for everybody at Starrcast. And if you, for whatever reason, you can't make it to Chicago, well, you can still check it out on Fight. It's Starrcast.tv or Starrcast.com. We have all the details there. And of course you can check it out at fight.tv/Starrcast, but you need to get your butt to Chicago and do this stuff in person. You'll get to feeling better, looking better, and be all about it. And we're excited to hear about all of Tony's success, man. His household alone down 55 LBs. Way to go, guys.
Thanks very much. Dallas, you're my guru, buddy. I appreciate you. I really do, man.
Hey, Tony, how cool is it knowing where me and you have come through this whole thing, and to be a part of this? Is
that something?
History with the dream,
Yeah, you're right.
So it's pretty cool. And Conrad, I'm gonna put you over, man. I met you a couple years back at your place, and what you've done and what you've created. This whole thing is super, super special, man. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. And I appreciate you pulling us in and doing all this stuff with us, man, because you reached out to me about doing our DDPY workshop there at Starrcast. So it's going to be a great time. And I will guarantee you that this is going to be something people are not going to forget, because then we're just going to take it to the next spot and the next spot. So pretty great for wrestling fans out there all around the world. So I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on tonight, guys. It's been your pleasure.
Thanks for coming on, man. And thanks for taking a little time today to